Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News. We've got our eye on Gujarat and the top national and international stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines of this hour. Voting underway for the second and final phase of Gujarat elections. Fate of prominent candidates, Deputy Chief Minister Nitin Patel and Congress leader Alpesh Thakur to be sealed. Polling in 93 seats across 14 districts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi dedicates INS Kalvari to the nation. The first 6 Scorpion-class submarine commissioned into the Navy. PM calls it an excellent example of Make in India. Government is working to strengthen the banking system, says Prime Minister Modi. Assures money of depositors safe in banks. Centre extends deadline for linking Aadhaar with bank accounts till 31st March 2018. British Prime Minister Theresa May suffers a setback on key Brexit vote. Members of Parliament vote for an amendment to the bill that gives lawmakers the final say in the Brexit deal. And India beat Sri Lanka by 141 runs in the second ODI, led by Rohit Sharma's double ton. While in badminton, PV Sindhu gets off to a winning start at the Dubai Super Series final. Our top focus this morning, voting for the second and final phase of the Gujarat Assembly polls is underway. Let's get you all the details from there. So polling is taking place for 93 constituencies in this phase. Voting, which began at 8 a.m., will end at 5 in the evening. 14 districts across North and Central Gujarat are voting in this phase. Now, many senior leaders, including BJP President Amit Shah, former Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel and Shankar Singh Waghela were among those who cast their votes. Prime Minister Modi's mother, Hiraben, also cast her vote a short while back. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is slated to cast his vote in Ahmedabad later today at around 11:30. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who is the member of Rajya Sabha from BJP representing Gujarat, also cast his vote. The fate of 851 candidates will be decided in this phase. Over 2 crore 22 lakh people, including 1 crore 7 lakh women, are eligible as their franchisee. The smallest constituency in Daryapur and the largest is Radhanpur. By the size of the electorate, the smallest is Limkheda constituency and the largest is the Ghatlodia. And a quick look at some of the prominent contestants in this phase. Deputy Chief Minister of Gujarat Nitin Patel is contesting from Mehsana seat. It's going to be a crucial one for him here. And of course, you have Alpesh Thakur, who is the Congress's candidate, contesting from Radhanpur. We'll also be seeing Jignesh Mawani's fate being sealed today, the prominent Dalit face of the elections, contesting as an independent from Vadgam. And the leader of the Congress Legislative Party, Mohan Singh Rathwa, contesting from the tribal constituency of Chota Udaipur. Well, our correspondent Kriti Mishra has been tracking developments across various districts for the past few days, and she's in Ahmedabad now bringing us this report.
We are at Nishan School in Sabarmati area of Ahmedabad, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to cast his ballot at around 11:30 a.m. Elaborate security arrangement has been put in place, so there's 3-tier security. The inner cordon is being guarded by a platoon of Central Paramilitary Force. The middle cordon is being guarded by a State Reserve Police Force, and the outer cordon is being supervised by Home Guards and also by local police units. People have started queuing up since morning to exercise their franchise, and I'm joined by several voters, and let's try and understand what are the core issues for the voters. Sir, इस बार चुनाव के क्या मुद्दे हैं?
Only for विकास.
Only for विकास. क्या मुद्दे हैं चुनाव के?
GST है, अनामत है, काफी सारे.
GST है, अनामत है.
अभी विकास है, पहले तो वही सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है, विकास अच्छा हो और सभी.
So people are talking about development, about Patidar Andolan as well. So it is also said that if Saurashtra was the game changer in the first phase, North Gujarat is going to be crucial for the second phase. From Ahmedabad, with camera person Yogesh Agarwal, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
We'll continue tracking developments from there. Meanwhile, the Election Commission on Wednesday issued a show-cause notice to Congress President-elect Rahul Gandhi for prima facie violating provisions of the election rules. The EC asked Gandhi to respond to the notice latest by the 18th of December evening as to why action should not be taken against him. The EC said that the display of his interviews by TV channels fell within the definition of election matter under the Representation of the People's Act, and the telecast within 48 hours ending with the hour fixed for the conclusion of the poll amounted to violation of the Act. The poll body, in its two-page order, said that it will decide the matter without any reference to him if he fails to respond to the notice. The EC has also asked TV channels to immediately stop airing his interview. It also directed Gujarat poll authorities to lodge an FIR against anyone for infringement of legal provisions.
ना संविधान की धारा 324 में, ना कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट के मापदंडों में ये आता, ये सीधे सीधे प्रेस को दबाने की एक कोशिश है.
It was patently evident that they have violated the model code of conduct. जो गुजरात के अंदर ही इस प्रकार की प्रचार का कार्यक्रम चालू रखा कल शाम के बाद, जो जब प्रचार बंद हो जाना चाहिए था, ये बड़े दुर्भाग्य की बात है और इलेक्शन कमीशन ने सही निर्णय लिया है.
On to other national news stories, and the government has called an all-party meeting today at 5 p.m. ahead of the winter session of Parliament that begins tomorrow. Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anant Kumar has convened the meeting at the Parliament Library building. The meeting has been called to ensure a smooth functioning of both houses during the session that will last till the 5th of January. Lok Sabha Speaker too has called an all-party meeting today ahead of the winter session. Opposition parties will also be holding a separate meeting to chalk out their floor strategy at 4 p.m. today. Besides the Congress, leaders of the left parties, Samajwadi Party, BSP, NCP and others are expected to take part in the meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi dedicated the naval submarine INS Kalvari to the nation today. The Prime Minister dedicated the first of 6 Scorpene-class submarines at an event in Mumbai. Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Navy Chief Admiral Sunil Lamba and other senior officials of the Navy and the Maharashtra government were present at the event. INS Kalvari, a diesel-electric attack submarine, is the first of 6 Scorpene-class submarines handed over by shipbuilder Mazgaon Dock Limited. The Scorpenes are being built under Project 75 with the transfer of technology from a foreign collaborator, DCNS of France. Speaking at the event, the Prime Minister said that the INS Kalvari is an excellent example of Make in India.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief.
करीब 2 दशक के अंतराल के बाद भारत को इस तरह की पनडुब्बी मिल रही है. नौसेना के बेड़े में कलवरी का जुड़ना रक्षा क्षेत्र में हमारी तरफ से उठाया गया एक बहुत बड़ा कदम है. इसे बनाने में भारतीयों का पसीना लगा है, भारतीयों की शक्ति लगी है. ये मेक इन इंडिया का एक उत्तम उदाहरण है.
Prime Minister Modi allayed fears over the bail-in provision in a new proposed banking law. Speaking at the FICCI event in Delhi on Wednesday, the Prime Minister dismissed rumours that banks will forfeit a major portion of deposits made by account holders in case of financial crisis. He said that the government is trying to strengthen the banking system to protect the interest of both the depositors as well as the banks. He also attacked the previous UPA government for the bad loans problems in India.
Speaking at the 90th Annual General Meeting of Industry Association FICCI, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a blistering attack on opposition Congress. Modi said under the UPA regime, banks were pressured to give loans worth thousands of crore to select industrialists.
इस दौरान कुछ बड़े-बड़े उद्योगपतियों को लाखों करोड़ों के लोन दिए गए, बैंकों पर दबाव डाल करके पैसा दिलवाया गया. ये आजकल नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट्स एनपीए का जो
हल्ला मच रहा है वो पहले की सरकार में बैठे अर्थशास्त्रियों की इस सरकार को गई सबसे बड़ी लायबिलिटी है.
Listing out his government's pro-poor policies, the Prime Minister said 87 reforms in 21 sectors have been undertaken in the last 3 years to overhaul the economy.
हमारी सरकार ने लोगों की समस्याओं, उनकी आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए अपनी योजनाएं बनाने का निरंतर प्रयास किया है. लोगों की जिंदगी आसान बने, ईज ऑफ लिविंग बढ़े, इस विजन को हमने प्राथमिकता दी है.
He added that his government is building a system that is transparent, sensitive and understands people's needs. He also assured people that their bank deposits will be safe and that their interests will not be harmed in any way. His assurance came amid worries over what is being called a bail-in provision in a new proposed banking law. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the Congress was swift in reacting on the Prime Minister's allegations. Listen in.
लाखों रुपए के कर्जे इनके निकट के उद्योगपतियों के माफ हुए हैं. आज एनपीएस बढ़े हैं. इनके शासनकाल में लगभग 4.5 लाख करोड़. जवाब दें. अगर हम पे आरोप लगाते हैं, उनकी पुरानी आदत है दूसरे की तरफ उंगली उठा दो और गलती खुद करते रहो.
The government on Wednesday extended the deadline for mandatory quoting of Aadhaar for bank accounts and certain financial transactions. It has extended the deadline by 3 months till 31st March 2018. The government had made quoting of the 12-digit biometric identifier Aadhaar mandatory for all and new bank accounts, as well as for any financial transaction of 50,000 rupees and above. The previous deadline was 31st December 2017. The decision to extend the deadline was reportedly taken after various representations as well as inputs received from banks. Last week, the deadline for linking PAN with Aadhaar 2 was extended by 3 months to March 31st, 2018. With that, a quick break here. We'll get you more news in just a bit.
There has been a perception that the government was trying to defer the winter session of Parliament because of the Gujarat polls.
सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि हमको कैसा पार्लियामेंट का सेशन चाहिए, ऐसा जो वर्किंग हो या ऐसा जो नाम का हो.
एक और जो एक्यूजेशन ऑपोजिशन की तरफ से आया था, that the government is trying to avoid the debate and discussion on crucial issues like these, GST, sliding economy, demonetization.
ये आज से 20 साल पहले कहते रहे तो ज़्यादा अच्छा था.
मणिशंकर अय्यर जो है अभी एक रिमार्क प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी पर किया था, उसको आप काउंटर करेंगे या किसी तरीके का आप इस पर चर्चा चाहेंगे?
उसके ऊपर कांग्रेस ने उनको पार्टी से निलंबित भी कर दिया है. तो कांग्रेस ने एक तरह से ये माना है इस बात के लिए कि उनका जो रिमार्क था वो अच्छा नहीं था, खासतौर से प्राइम मिनिस्टर के लिए इस भाषा का प्रयोग करना.
Watch to the point with Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs Vijay Goyal only on Rajya Sabha television. Mihir Sen, an outstanding and extraordinary saltwater swimmer of India. He is the first Asian to swim the English Channel way back in 1958. And just 8 years later, in 1966, he swam the 7 seas of the 5 continents in 1 calendar year, which etched his name in the Guinness Book of World Records. In 1959, he was also conferred the Padma Shri, and in 1967, he was awarded the Padma Bhushan.
From a regional power to an assertive global leader.
Image building is a very complex exercise. You can gain on some fronts, but you can lose on other fronts.
India is changing and there will have to be give and take. The old days of colonialism are over.
We have a strategic partnership agreement that includes areas of cooperation in all fields, including security and defense.
India is taking confident strides on the global stage.
Pakistan is now terroristan.
New friendships, stronger ties. Join me, Tracy Shilshi, every Monday at 10 p.m. as I speak to India's foreign policy elite. Catch all the action on India's World, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Welcome back. More national news. And a special CBI court will hear the arguments on the quantum of punishment for convicted former Jharkhand Chief Minister Madhu Koda in a coal scam case. Special CBI Judge Bharat Parashar on Wednesday had held Koda and former Coal Secretary H.C. Gupta guilty of corruption and other charges. The others accused include former Jharkhand Chief Secretary A.K. Basu and private company Vinny Iron and Steel Udyog Limited. They were found guilty of varying offences, including criminal conspiracy in the case pertaining to irregularities in allocation of the Rajhara North coal block in Jharkhand to Kolkata-based Visul. All the accused have refuted the allegations levelled against them.
उस समय बड़ी बेतरतीब काम हुए और आगे आने वाली सभी सरकारों को इससे सबक लेना चाहिए, जो अपने किसी पद पर हैं और पद के प्रभाव का उपयोग करके जो भी उल्टा सीधा करते रहते हैं, तो आज नहीं कल जरूर वो पकड़े जाएंगे।
जो तथ्य है उन तथ्यों को भी मैं समझता हूँ कि बेहतर तरीके से प्रस्तुत करके जो ओरिजिनलिटी है, जो उसमें जो तथ्य छिपे हुए हैं, उसका उजागर जरूर होना चाहिए।
The Supreme Court on Wednesday gave its green signal for enforcement of a comprehensive action plan to deal with the pollution crisis in Delhi NCR. The court permitted the centre to modify the notification banning the use of pet coke and furnace oil in UP, Rajasthan and Haryana for industries like cement, limestone and thermal power plants. While cement and lime industries use pet coke, thermal power plants use furnace oil. The court directed the Ministry of Environment and Forests to come out with regulations for the sale of pet coke and fix emission standards for thermal power plants. The bench added that the notification might be modified after the regulations were finalized and put in place. Regarding the use of furnace oil in thermal power plants, the court said that it can be used till 31st December 2018 and added that thermal power plants would have to switch over to alternative fuel within a year. The court said that other issues, including diesel cars and implementation of the BS6 norm, would be considered on the next date of hearing in January. Meanwhile, the National Green Tribunal has declared Amarnath Cave Shrine a silent zone. The tribunal prohibited religious offerings beyond the entry point and has issued a slew of orders to be implemented by the Amarnath Shrine Board. It also asked the board to ensure proper infrastructure for pilgrims so that they are not deprived of a clear sight while also maintaining the ecology of the area. The Green Body also directed the committee of experts headed by an additional secretary of the Ministry of Environment and Forests to submit an action plan on providing facilities to the pilgrims within 3 weeks. Pakistan has once again rejected India's plea for consular access to death row prisoner Kulbhushan Jadhav at the International Court of Justice. The Express Tribune newspaper in Pakistan reported that in a counter-memorial submitted to the ICJ, Pakistan said that the provision of such an access under the Vienna Convention is only for legitimate visitors and not for spies, and that New Delhi wanted access to Jadhav to get information on his spying activities. The International Court will now decide whether to take the case forward for hearing or ask both India and Pakistan to submit more documents. Last week, Pakistan had granted permission to the mother and wife of Jadhav to meet him on December 25th. A diplomat from the Indian High Commission in Islamabad would be allowed to accompany the visitors. 47-year-old Jadhav was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism in April, following which India moved the ICJ in May. The ICJ then halted his execution on India's appeal pending the final verdict by it. Talks at the World Trade Organization's 11th Ministerial Conference have collapsed. This after the US went back on its commitment to finding a permanent solution to the public food stockpile issue. As the US refused to engage, the 164-member WTO failed to reach a common ground for resolving the food security issue, a demand raised prominently by India. Even after hectic parleys, the member nations failed to break an impasse over issue on the fourth and final day of the ministerial conference. Following the breakdown of talks, there was no ministerial declaration at the end of the meeting, though the conference chair made a statement highlighting feeble progress made in areas like e-commerce and fisheries. For India, failure to successfully push the food security issue was a disappointment, but it did not yield any ground of the issue of food security. In more international news, British Prime Minister Theresa May suffered a setback on a crucial Brexit vote in the UK Parliament. The 650-seat Parliament voted 309 to 305 in favour of an amendment to hand lawmakers more say over a final exit deal with the EU. May lost the crucial vote after a rebellion within her own party. Members of Parliament in Britain are debating the EU withdrawal bill, which will repeal the 1972 legislation binding Britain to the EU and copy existing EU law into domestic law to ensure legal continuity after exit day on March 29, 2019. In focus on Wednesday was an amendment put forward by a Conservative lawmaker who wants Parliament to have a meaningful vote on any deal before it is finalised and for it to be written into law. The UK government said that it was disappointed by the vote.
I'm sure you want to hear the result to make sure it is correct. The ayes to the right, 309. The noes to the left, 305. The ayes have it, unlocked.
On to sports now. In India defeated Sri Lanka by 141 runs in the second ODI in Mohali to level the series 1-1. Chasing a target of 393, the Lankans got off to a poor start as they kept losing wickets at regular intervals. Upul Taranga and Dhanush Gunatilak were in fact dismissed early by seamers Jasprit Bumrah and Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Angelo Matthews scored an unbeaten 111 runs, but there was no big contribution from the other end. Yuzvendra Chahal was the pick of the bowlers for the Indian side as he picked 3 wickets. Earlier, when put into bat, India scored a massive 392 for the loss of 4 wickets. Opener Shikhar Dhawan scored 68 runs, while Shreyas Iyer made 88 off just 70 balls. Stand-in skipper Rohit Sharma scored an unbeaten 208 with 13 fours and 12 sixes and became the only player to score 3 double centuries in ODIs. He also registered the second highest individual score by a captain in the 50-over format, second only to Virendra Sehwag, who scored 219 against West Indies in Indore in 2011.
Having had a loss in the first game and we wanted to come back as a batting group. So this was again important. It is my first captaincy stint and, I, as a batsman first, then the captain. As a batsman, I wanted to do well, just to take my team into good positions all the time. I'm someone who doesn't look too far ahead. So I won't be talking about what we have to do in South Africa and all that. I've been appointed as the captain for the first time of this team, and my job here is very, very important. And I'm only thinking about this particular series right now.
I think their plan to bowl white jokers. Only thing is they didn't execute well, and you have to give credit to Rohit. That's outstanding inning. And 390, I think, too far for us.
And the good news continues for India. Ace Indian shuttler PV Sindhu made a positive start to her campaign at the Dubai Super Series final. Sindhu defeated China's world number 9, He Bingjiao, 21-11, 16-21, 21-18 in a Group A match of women's singles. Sindhu will face Japan's Sayaka Sato in the next match. In the men's singles Group B match, Kidambi Srikanth lost to world number 1 Victor Axelsen 13-21, 17-21. Srikanth will take on Chinese Taipei's Zhou Tenchen in the next match. There are 8 players in each category who've been divided into 2 groups in this tournament. And that's it on the Breakfast News. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.